Good morning, everybody, and welcome all councillors and members of the public to the latest meeting of the North Northamptonshire Executive, and welcome to those watching on our live stream on YouTube. Members are reminded, actually everyone's reminded to keep your microphones muted unless invited to speak, and also if you can keep your electronic devices on silent, because I will be looking to raise money for the Chair's charity, Teamwork Trust, and if you fall foul of this rule, I'll be expecting £10 out of every offence that you commit. Okay, oh, that bit's set. Agenda item 1, apologies for absences.
Thank you, Chair. Only the one today, Charisse Monero, Executive Director of Children's Services.
Thank you very much. So, moving on to item 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of February 2025 and the 13th of February 2025. Are there any comments in relation to their accuracy? No. Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes, please? Thank you, Councillor Howe and Brackenbury. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I have a show of hands in favour, by the way, so for me to sign those.
Unanimous, Chair.
Stick to procedure. The monitoring officer's watching me like a hawk. So, members' declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members? No. Okay. So, we move on to item 4, notifications to address the meeting. I'm not going to go through them all here right now, but I will call you in at the relevant time. So, item 5 is the first piece of business on there, the Health and Wellbeing Strategy for North Northamptonshire 24 to 29. And invite Councillor Maxwell to come and address the meeting. Councillor Maxwell, you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Health and Wellbeing Strategy. I welcome this report, but I would like to ask the following questions. How many children vape in NNC? And what is being done to stop children purchasing vapes and checking that shops are not selling the vapes to children? 2. How many people smoke in NNC? And are they trying to stop children from smoking? Since selling cigarettes is now behind the counter display, what impact has this made? And 3, how do you communicate with stakeholders who sell cigarettes? 4, how many officers are employed in this area? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. Of course, you can email the portfolio holder with those questions if ever you have those concerns, but I'm sure the portfolio holder will come back to you on that. I'd like to invite Councillor Buckingham to address the meeting.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity. Whilst I also welcome a health and wellbeing strategy, I feel that this doesn't go far enough. There are so many gaps within the strategy itself. I know that it's an evolving document. However, there are very few targets. There are very few areas where collaborative working would help, especially around mental health in children. So you've got a number of areas and priorities. One of the priorities for children is just childhood obesity. The links with the financial stuff, mental health. There's nothing about suicide, self-harm, poor housing and health and mental health. And this is where something like Councillor Harrison's Poverty Truth Commission would have helped. give some of those a lot more data if it had been set up. So for me, the strategy doesn't go far enough. There are too many gaps, and I know it needs strengthening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. So what I will do now is I will ask Councillor Mercer to introduce the report and follow up on any of those questions if she wishes to do so.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, Councillor Maxwell, thank you for your questions. They are fairly specific in terms of numbers. I haven't got all of those figures here, but I will email you those. I know there are 9 trading standards officers who follow up on illegal substances and keep track of the shops that might sell vapes to children, etc. So there is a lot of work done in this area, but I need to get back to you about the specifics. Councillor Buckingham, I'm sorry you think there are gaps. This isn't the entirety of what we do. This is just certain set topics that have been brought as, to bring to the fore. And behind each one is an action plan. And that this is just a high level. There's a huge amount of work going on beneath the surface. For instance, collaboration, you said, with mental health. Each of the topics have a champion, and the champion for mental health is from NHFT. So it is entirely collaboration-led. And for instance, self-harm is an absolute priority for us. There is also things like suicide prevention, whole boards. We discussed all these different topics. This is just a very high level. There's a huge amount that goes on beneath the surface, and I'm happy to have a discussion with you about that. Well, this health and wellbeing strategy is a statutory duty, and the priorities are decided on the 29th of June 2023. Those are 5 topics that have been chosen as to work on specifically: smoking and vaping, keeping active, mental health and wellbeing, children and young people, and financial resilience. The Strategy Oversight Board and the North Place Delivery Board oversee this, and it's also been to scrutiny and the EAP, and it's supported by the 7 LAPs. There are separate action plans, as I mentioned just now, for each priority, and there's champion as laid out at 5.5. So it's an iterative approach. That means that we're developing action plans, and each of the stakeholders works on that action plan. The EAPs looked at those, and if there are any changes that are needed, it's not set in stone. It's as changes of pattern and come up, then we will respond to those circumstances. £750,000 of public health funding has gone into this, plus there's also smoke-free generation funding for the smoking and vaping. But the overriding objective is to remove health inequalities. The strategy lays out some of the statistics, for instance, showing the figures for lung cancer and esophageal cancer, which can be attributed to smoking. The numbers of mothers smoking and the number in routine and manual workers is high. Councillor Maxwell, you might note that 29.8%, which is why these areas are being targeted. And the cost also means that families are more likely to suffer poverty. A recent study shows that smokers spend £2,338 a year, or £45 a week, on smoking. And as you say, vaping is a big issue in young people, with 47% of Year 10 girls having tried vaping. The next item, keeping active, has huge benefits as per page 61 in the strategy. Let's check that because I changed some of these pages, yeah. It is an improvement in mental health and well-being, self-esteem, a reduction of chronic diseases, build-up and maintenance of healthy bones, improvement in coordination and motor skills, and helping to achieve and maintain a healthy body weight, amongst other things. And NNC has high levels of adults and children who are inactive, and this links in with our Active Communities framework and strategy. The severe mental health can reduce life expectancy by 15 to 20 years. And as I said earlier, our figures of self-harm are high, and there is a connection between self-harm and those who go on to die by suicide. So it's absolutely one of our priorities. Under children and young people, it's vital we give our young people the best start in life. These priorities overlap, as keeping active and healthy eating to avoid obesity is vitally important. And our figures for obesity in young people are very high. 36.9% of 10 to 11-year-olds were obese. That is over a third of our children. That is very, very high. And that is one of the targets we have to work on. And financial resilience is also a priority. The cost of living crisis affects all people, but some groups more than others, as outlined in the strategy. Unfortunately, if the government changes things like employers' national insurance, removing pensions, winter fuel payments, that has an impact on financial resilience. And we've also had recently a 3% reduction in skills funding, and also the cancellation of the multiplier scheme. So that also has an impact. On page 72, it shows the ways we'll measure the outcomes of this work. For instance, we'll support more people to stop smoking, get more people physically active, integrate services through the family hubs to better support our children and young people. We'll work with the collaborative through the MHLDA pillar of the ICS to improve the mental health and wellbeing of our people, and co-produce new models of support to improve the financial resilience of our population. This strategy has been out to consultation. That ends today, but up until the 6th of March, we'd had 45 responses, which were generally supportive. The Executive therefore asked to agree this strategy, which is from 2024 to 29, as recommended at 3.1 for the reasons given in 3.2.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mercer. So I'm just going to look around the table for members who want to interact with this. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you. I'd really like to welcome this strategy, and I think it's really important that the areas that we're targeting are very clear, and that we are basing it on the best data we have for where we can make the biggest impact in terms of health outcomes and health inequality across Northamptonshire. And I know that that's what has been done here. It would be inappropriate to list every single issue that exists across Northamptonshire and say that we're going to solve all of those problems, because then the targeted help would have far less impact and would probably, just end up becoming another strategy that sits there and doesn't really achieve anything. It's so important for this to be focused on the most severe of the problems that we're facing at the moment, so that over the lifespan of this strategy, we make genuine strides forwards. And I think that the 5 areas that have been identified are exactly the right ones. And as we look to the future, as we start to make improvements and strides forwards in those areas, the iterative process that is the health and wellbeing strategy will start to look at other areas and start to broaden that out. So it's absolutely right not to have a splattergun approach where you try to solve everything. We've got to be very focused and make some real changes here. And I think this will have if successful, will have a really big impact on the health and wellbeing of people in Northamptonshire.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Brackenbury.
Thank you very much, Chair. And like Councillor Harrison, I too welcome this report. I think it's refreshing to see the actual priorities being addressed. Clearly, the areas of focus being smoking, mental health, keeping active, children and young people, and financial resilience, which I know isn't something we can solve in an afternoon, but they are absolute drivers of health inequalities. So it's good to see that. I'm also pleased, Councillor Mercer, to note your comment, but of course this isn't all that we're doing. These are just areas of emphasis that the Health and Wellbeing Board are looking at. So I welcome it. I think it's a very interesting document. I mean, I've read through some of it, and it provides a very interesting snapshot of where Northamptonshire sits in the national statistics. And some of those figures are actually quite alarming. So thank you for bringing this paper forward. Thank you to Jane and the team for all the work that they're doing, as well as all the external people who are feeding into this piece of work. And it will be very interesting to see how the work that's going on in this strategy will actually drive change in the outcomes for people in Northamptonshire.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. So I welcome this report too, and in my area of children's and young people's, just to back up actually what Councillor Mercer says, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. So this is more of a high-level report with titles, but actually the subtitles below that, you all know that mental health within schools, we're looking at signposting within schools, we're looking at actually putting people in there to identify mental health before it gets to a stage where it gets really severe. And we know that within schools we can do that. We know with our elective home education children, actually some of that is down to mental health because of their desire not to go to school because they are frightened or they are concerned about that. So it's about identifying that, it's about looking into that beforehand. The activity in healthy lives at such a young age, absolutely. We have children that are obese and not physically active for reasons that are not medical, and we need to be working with them, and exactly what this policy does. And so I welcome this, and I look forward to the early help, getting in there early, supporting our young people, and getting it done.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. I'm going to come back to Councillor Mercer just to sum up, and I will find you a seconder for the report.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the welcome comments. Yes, it is targeted. We can't do everything. If we did, then we wouldn't achieve as much. Each of these topics was brought to the Health and Wellbeing Board as an outline and then a more detailed, and each one went through very thoroughly. And as I said, that working also with outside stakeholders. So, for instance, smoking, vaping, Jane is the lead on that. Chris Holmes from Northamptonshire Sport on keeping active. David Mayer from the NHFT on mental health and wellbeing. Charisse Monero on the children and young people. And also Joe Moore on accommodation concern on financial resilience. So we're very much working with people outside. And as Councillor Edwards said, it is very much about early help, prevention. It's really good that we're getting into schools and looking at mental health early. So I'd just like to commend this report to the Executive, and hope you'll support it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mercer. So you have moved that report. Would someone like to second that report? Councillor Edwards, thank you very much. The recommendations are set out on page 40 of your agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we move on. Item 6, annual inflationary uplifts to adult social care and support 25-26. And I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to come and address the meeting.
Good morning again. Annual inflationary uplifts and adult social care support. This report has clearly had an impact on adult social care. What stands out is the increase that people are now having to pay and the increase that NNC are having to pay. With national insurance increase, this will have an impact, cost, and passed on to clients who have to pay for their own fees. Equally, the council will now have to pay more for people who are unable to pay for their care. Not being able to recruit staff is an issue, but this is down to the government who 15 years ago stopped courses which enabled young people to study from 16 years upwards. It has not been seen as an active career progression. This cost will increase with higher insurance, national insurance. How many people who do not pay for themselves? I would like to think that everybody is treated the same. I think NNC makes sure this happens, but at what cost?
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Mercer, would you like to introduce your report, please?
Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Maxwell, you're completely right about national insurance. Now, this uplift we do every year, and we usually take into account the national living wage because we know that's coming every year, and this year it's risen by 6.73%. So we do help our suppliers, providers of care, by giving an uplift, which helps that. Unfortunately, we don't have a bottomless pit of money. We cannot also subsidise the national insurance increase. So unfortunately, that will fall on our suppliers. And we don't know yet what the impact of that will be. And as for careers, that's precisely the reason we do this inflation uplift, so that the turnover, which is about 23.4% in adult social care, is helped so that the employers can make this encourage people to come into this industry and stay. So, as I said, this allows providers on our framework to cope with this additional inflationary pressure. And so that then fulfills our obligation to ensure a sustainable market of care. If you take, it's said about the national living wage, that has an enormous effect on care suppliers, many of whom have workers on the minimum wage, and that this inflation uplift enables them to retain and recruit their staff. The rates run from 1st of April 2025, and the new rates are set out on page 77, and you'll see they vary from service to service. The uplifts apply to those providers on our framework. And we encourage them to join our framework because if we have to use spot providers, this is at a higher rate, which can be 20 to 40% higher. And this is most prevalent for nursing care, where we're having to increase the rates by 17%, as otherwise we're having to pay out a lot more for spot providers. 3.2.10 explains that more fully because that was quite a big uplift on that sector to explain that fully. It's come from basically a benchmarking exercise of nursing fees that shows that this investment is required because only 35% of placements in nursing care were with a contracted provider. And feedback from the providers is that's because of the fees are not attractive, and our benchmarking output has demonstrated that. And this is driving an increase in the off-framework placements. So the proposed free uplift will incentivise providers to join our framework, which will result in a net decrease in the cost of nursing care placements, with expected to pay rise of £918.49 for nursing care and £995 for dementia nursing care. As we said about national insurance changes, this particularly hits this sector because of the part-time working, whereas the employers didn't have to pay national insurance for some workers previously. The reduction in the secondary threshold to £5,000 means that they're now having to pay national insurance. And as I say, we can't afford to bridge that gap. So I'd like to recommend that the executive agree this as per the recommendation 3.1.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mercer. And it's a very good paper that you're bringing forward, and I wholly support this one myself. It's just unfortunate that we're in a position, not just here in Northamptonshire, but across the country, where the Labour government's policies have amounted not much more than a raid on employees and employers with their increased ENI stuff and lowering on thresholds. Unintended consequences, I would suggest, of a growth agenda. But I'm glad that here in Northamptonshire we're addressing that in the best way we can. But I think, you know, we certainly need to keep that pressure on our local MPs and government to look to help local authorities in this sector to ensure that we can continue to invest and protect those who absolutely need our service across Northamptonshire. Members, have you got anything to say in relation to this? No, so I'll go back to you, Councillor Mercer, and then I'll get you a seconder.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, Leader. And yeah, I think it's we just don't know what the impact of these national insurance is going to be. This authority cannot afford to supplement that to help these providers. And just we don't want provider failure, because then we have to obviously look after people that are impacted by that. But we just do the best we can by doing this uplift to cover other inflationary pressures.
Thank you, Councillor Mercer. Would someone like to second Councillor Mercer's reports? Councillor Harrison, thank you very much. The recommendations are set out on page 76 and 77 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Oh, unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. So we now move on to item 7, replacement adult social care system. And I'd like to invite Councillor Buckingham to address the meeting, please.
Thank you very much. And although I welcome the report, note several things, and there are some things that don't sort of add up here. So a little bit of clarity. So this contract ends in 2 weeks' time, and I think you're proposing to carry on, because you have that option to go out to tender, and a new system in place going live in March 2027. However, there's a 2.2 million implementation costing, which I know has got to come back to full council and obviously won't be able to until the next time. However, the annual costs for maintenance and support of the systems, and I'm presuming this is the new systems, will start to come out from the MTFP from this year. So I'm unsure of where we are, why we're only 2.5 weeks away from the end of the contract, and not many systems in place, and why money's coming out of the MTFP now if it doesn't go live until 2027. It's just that clarity that, you know, and it could be that I've completely read it wrong, but to me, looking at the report, things just don't add up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. I'm sure you've not read that report wrong. But what I will do is Councillor Mercer will answer some of your questions and introduce the report, and I'm sure my able colleague to the right of me, Councillor Bunday, will answer your colleagues around the reflection upon the medium-term financial position. So, Councillor Mercer, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I'll try to, I'll cover the report and I'll come back to your points afterwards. So basically, the contract is ending, as you're saying, very shortly, but there's going to be a 2-year process of sort of an extension, but just to go out to those same suppliers to extend, rather than going out to tender for that 2 years. The tender then will go out for the new system. As far as the maintenance goes, most of that is covered. It's sort of an overlap of how much we're paying at the moment for the existing systems. There is some double working, so 2 systems going at the same time, and so there is an increase on it, but it's mostly. But if I haven't answered your question, then do come back to me afterwards, and I'll get some more information from you. So the executive being advised of the options to procure a new replacement adult social care case management system, and that's proposes to enter a 7-year contract with 4 + 1 + 2 years. And the report seeks, via recommendation to full council, that the funding for the one-off implementation costs of the project be made through already earmarked reserves. The overall cost is 5.72 million for the annual maintenance and implementation costs, and as I say, with a one-off cost of 2.2, which is to be met through planned use to flexible capital receipts. And the rest of the planned costs are from existing budgets. The outcome should provide better management of the service, improved care coordination, communication and engagement. It will also allow for better performance management, quality assurance and reporting. And it's expected that as a result there will be a reduction in the budget required for these systems. Implementation of the new system will be by Q1 of 2027, and as I say, in the interim the current systems will be re-procured utilising a direct award to the existing suppliers. And this will enable time to fully implement the new system and carry out training. We have multiple systems at the moment: Eclipse, Care First, Signum, Abacus and Care Store. And they all date back to the NCC days and are shared with the Children's Trust and West Northants. And those contracts all end 31st of March 2025. It's not supporting the most efficient way of working with the new adult social care strategy. There are challenges with limited integration, poor performance, difficulty from remote access with manual processes that are not efficient. NNC requires a modern system with the advantages outlined in 4.7. Those are reduced administrative workload, enhanced resident engagement, improved financial controls, improved performance and management information, and opportunities to embed AI in workflows. The end of the current contract represents an opportunity to procure a modern cloud-based case management system. The officers have done market engagement to check that systems are available and that will improve the quality of care and be future-proof. The preferred solution is to commence a procurement process. That way the council can ensure a fair, transparent and competitive process. The timeline set out on paragraph 6.1 and as outlined in 7.1.8, overall it's expected the system will have a cost benefit of $94,000 a year due to improved ways of working, but further efficiencies may be identified once the supplier is identified. So I'd like to ask the executive to agree the recommendation in 3.1 as for the reasons in 3.2.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mercer. Members, have you got anything to say in relation to this paper before you at the moment? No? Okay. So, sorry, Councillor Edwards, try and be quicker next time.
Sorry, no, thank you, Chair. So I welcome this report and anything, particularly 2.4, where we're actually taking the users of this service into account. And it says, this will increase the options and choices available to individuals across each of the 4 communities of North Northamptonshire. And it's a strong voice for service delivery that focuses on what matters to them. And I think that is really important to highlight in this report, and is in this report, and that actually we are listening to our residents in North Northants and what matters to them.
Absolutely. Thank you for your contribution. Yes, and Councillor Bundy, you've got to come in about the financial aspects, aren't you?
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Mercer's covered most things, but for fear of being accused of being boring, can I refer people back to Appendix J of the budget report, which basically we've got the flexible use of capital receipts in there. And since this adult social care system will be generating considerable efficiencies and savings. We can use that within our strategy, and the existing system is already in our MTFP, so the impact is going to be absolutely negligible.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bundy. Councillor Mercer, did you want to come back on any of that, or shall I find you a seconder?
I think, thank you for the clarification, Councillor Bundy. I'm sure that has assisted our speakers, and thank you also, Councillor Edwards, for your comments. But other than that, nothing to say.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mercer. Based on that, Councillor Bundy, would you like to second that paper? Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder, and the recommendations are set out on page 90 and 91 of your agenda packs. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Okay, so we now move on to item 8, care and support in accommodation-based settings for individuals with needs arising from mental health and or autism. And I'd like to invite Councillor Buckingham to address the meeting, please.
Thank you very much. And again, I welcome this report. I note the move from the commissioning through the ICB for some of these services. I wonder how it's going to work alongside, because the executive put in a system last year for mental health, accommodation and care and support with people with mental health, substance abuse, chaotic lifestyles, how it will work with that that accommodation that we already have in place, or I'm presuming it's in place for those people with mental health. Just that question really, because we know that people with chaotic lifestyles, you know, do have that mental health problem, is usually a catalyst for substance abuse and all the rest of it. So it's how it's working with our system that we put in place last year, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. What I will do is probably ask Councillor Mercer or Mr. Watts to come back to you on email if you prefer to on that. Are you happy with that, Councillor Mercer?
Yes,
Yep.
certainly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mercer, back over to you to introduce another report.
Yep. Sorry, it's the Councillor Mercer show today. Yes, I'm not quite sure what you mean, Councillor Buckingham. Might need to get a bit more detail because there are several different contracts. There's commissioning for a good life and others that, you know, there's subtle differences between them. So this report seeks agreement to proceed with procurement through an open tender for care and support in accommodation-based settings for individuals with needs arising from mental health and autism. And the existing contract expires on the 30th of September 2025. You mentioned about sort of not working with the ICB, but actually we will still be working with the ICB on this. And it's a proposed framework for care and support. The aim is to increase the options for individuals. So there are different tiers, and some tiers are usually paid for by health and some by ourselves and some split 50-50, etc. The intention is to award a 4-year contract, plus one, the value of 7 million a year, totaling 42 million over the lifetime of the contract. The aim is to have continuity of care plus better outcomes. And historically, this was set up by the CCG and the County Council with 7 providers supporting 80 individuals in accommodation-based settings. This Any Qualified Provider, or AQP as it's called, has not been open to new providers since 2020. So we've had to use spot providers for another 91 people at a greater cost and with less supervision of quality. So the ICB, as I say, are working collaboratively with us to commission a replacement arrangement for which the Council will be the lead commissioner. We both recognise that there's a gap in the market with regards to accommodation-based services and have agreed to use this tender to seek to engage providers as a separate lot. There are 2 types of arrangement: supported accommodation, which does not supply care, is not registered with the CQC, and supported living described at 4.15, where care is provided. And the council engages with 35 providers overall. The AQP works on a tiered system, as I say, where Tier 1 is severe needs, and that, as I said before, they're usually funded by health, and the other tiers have shared costs depending on the type of needs. But one anomaly of the system is that regardless of tier, the council has been paying for night support. This means we pay around 20,000 in a 50-50 split, when the individuals supported are 173 from West and 58 from North, and this new proposal will seek to rectify this anomaly. The option for a full market testing through a tender process is the recommended option. It's anticipated that the majority of providers will bid for this tender, which would increase the choices to the individuals through our brokerage process. We'll also work with framework providers where there are clear gaps in provision to meet demand. Consideration will be given to opening the framework for new entrants. The cost implications are outlined in Section 7, and it's projected that engagement with the market to move to 60% of the packages under a framework contract would elicit a saving of £9,248 per annum. The projected rates for the different tier are outlined in Table 1. There's been a market engagement event where 16 providers attended. There was also an online survey plus a facilitated workshop. So the recommendation to the executive is at 3.1 to approve the procurement of a contract for care and support for individuals with needs arising from mental health and or autism in accordance with the Care Act 2014, and to agree to delegate to the executive director in consultation with the executive member to make any other decisions necessary for the procurement and awarding of the contract, and this is for reasons given in 3.2.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mercer. Councillor Edwards, you've indicated you want to speak.
Thank you, Chair. And I go back to my previous point on the previous report about increasing the options available to the users of the system. And this really is a positive report in being able to do that. And the transitioning from my area of children's into adults. And this is really important that actually the two areas work together, and I know work together well in supporting the transitioning from children's into adults, particularly with children with autism and mental health needs. So I welcome this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Brackenbury.
Thank you, Chair. Indeed, I welcome this report too, and I absolutely agree with you, Councillor Edwards, about the transition from the children's service and looked after children into adulthood is a very vulnerable time, and I absolutely endorse what you've just said. In terms of this report, of course, it directly supports one of the 5 pillars that we were talking about in the health report, the health integrated health board report we were talking about earlier on in the meeting. So, you know, to promote mental health, to actually address these issues and support as far as possible independent living is really, really important. So I think this report is very much to be welcomed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. Well, it's a real vital snapshot of how adults and children work together, and I highly commend this report. So, Councillor Mercer, I go back to you to wrap up.
Thank you very much for your comments, councillors. And as you said, transitions is a vital area. I know a lot of work is done on that, and I'm sure it will be taken into account when this is being procured. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So the report has been moved by Councillor Mercer. Would someone like to second that report? Councillor Edwards, thank you very much. Recommendations are on page 102 of your agenda packs. They have now been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Fantastic. So we shall move on to item 9, Wellingborough and Rushden Area Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan. I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to address the meeting.
Good morning again. Wellingborough and Rushden Area Local Cycling and Walking. Looking at this report, it is great that we have this funding to increase the area. However, from last night's meeting at Great Addington, areas will not be accessible due to land owners not making it accessible, and also for disabled people. I actually bought a set of gates from my empowerment fund, but this is an issue which is going to be ongoing as it develops. I would like to see more young people use it and more signs letting people have access to these areas. In future, it looks interesting and will hope be accessible for all, which will be good for the public and young people to exercise. I feel this is a plus factor for NNC to ensure that the public see what they wouldn't normally see as they go along. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. I'd like to invite Mr. Chris Ashton to address the meeting. Mr. Ashton, you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you for your work on this report and allowing me to speak on the Wellingborough-Rushden local cycling, walking and infrastructure plan. If you want to help improve the environment, at least in North Northamptonshire, it is integral that this area can be accessible to walkers and cyclists. In 2021, North Northants was created partially due to Conservative mismanagement of the county, but also to unify the Corby, Kettering, Wellingborough and East Northants areas. These still have different rules on bin collections, different teams when calling the council.
Mr. Ashton, can I just stop you there? You need to talk on the paper that's in front of you about the LC whip, not issues that have passed. So if you could talk about the items that this report relates to, about the parts of that, that would be most appreciated.
Yeah, it's added context, Chair. The authority is still as divided as the days of the borough councils. While it is important to have localised strategies, it is imperative there is also an overarching North Northamptonshire strategy to ensure unity and encourage movement around the county by means that would take more cars off the crumbling roads. Just over a year ago, this council passed the plans for the Corby LC whip. However, speaking to residents in Weldon, many people told me, and I have seen for myself, the danger that this council encourages with this LC whip by putting the public right-of-way between Weldon and Priors Hall across a busy Stamford Road with unsatisfactory lighting and no crossing in a 60 miles per hour zone. Will the LC whip for Wellingborough and Rushden ensure that there are no unsafely designed crossings on any of these routes? Will Councillor Nicholl and North Northants Council consider creating an authority-wide strategy to connect the towns and villages, but also correct any issues in the initial strategies? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashton. I'd like to now hand over to Councillor Nicholl to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. And it's hard to follow up from Councillor Mercer's excellent presentation, so I will try. Now, I'm pleased to present this report today on the Wellingborough and Rushden local area cycling and walking infrastructure plan, or easily known as the LC whip. This is the final of 3 LC whips that North Northamptonshire Council has developed, and it actually represents a key step in shaping our approach to active travel across our areas. Now, I know that for many residents, walking and cycling isn't just a recreational activity. It's an essential part of their everyday lives, whether it's commuting to work, getting to school, or simply making local trips. So having the right infrastructure in place is absolutely crucial. And that's what this plan provides, a long-term strategy for improving walking and cycling routes across Wellingborough and Rushden, as well as the surrounding villages. Now, it identifies key improvements that will make active travel safer, more accessible, and better connected across our local areas. The DFT strongly recommends that councils develop LC whips, and doing so ensures that we take a structured, evidence-based approach to improving cycling and walking facilities. But another benefit of having an approved LC whip is that we have significantly increased our chances of securing government funding and making these projects a reality. Now, our plans are based on detailed assessments of the current walking and cycling routes, including public feedback and technical analysis. And this has helped us highlight key routes where investment will have the biggest and most impactful impacts. But Chair, this also aligns with our Greenway strategy, ensuring that our cycling and walking network links up with other sustainable transport across our areas. And naturally, Chair, public consultation will play a huge part of this and already has. We've gone through 2 rounds of consultation and multiple stakeholder workshops. We've gathered feedback from local residents, businesses and community groups. But I want to re-emphasise that each individual proposal, if rewarded funding, would hold their own consultations and be individually considered. And as always, Chair, community feedback would be at the absolute heart of this. So for that, I'm happy to move this report, and I hope the Executive approve the recommendations outlined in section 3 of the report. And to address some of the comments, we've not agreed to any of the plans. We're simply setting out the preliminary framework to secure the government funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholl, for your very in-depth overview of your report. You've created a trigger word for Councillor Howell, Greenway. So Councillor Howell now wishes to speak. Over to you, Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, obviously this paper really does sort of add to the value of everything that North Northants has tried to create, especially following the strategic master plan that is the Greenway strategy. So that comprises of over 350 kilometres of routes connecting all the settlements in North Northamptonshire, and also connects to the outlining towns and villages beyond North Northamptonshire. And this affects sort of a population of over 600,000 people. And whilst they are plans, having that evidence base to show that we need these connective routes within our area allows us to go out for any government funding, as Councillor Nicholl has already stated. And each of those routes will require further consultation as well, again, as Councillor Nicholl has stated. And the plan has been developed for the Greenway following the methodology set out for the LC WIP's guidance. So that, in effect, making the Northants Greenway a rural strategic LC WIP, which connects all of our areas. Councillor Maxwell, you mentioned about landowners not allowing. Well, there are always ongoing conversations with landowners, and yes, it'd be great if we can get landowners to buy into the strategy and the vision that we have to create these fantastic routes in and around. And that's always something that we have to do, is to show them the benefits of actually joining the scheme, because a lot of landowners, whether they like it or not, they have people wandering across their land. So for us to channel people walking down a specific route can actually provide a lot of benefits for landowners, because then it's focused in one area rather than being totally across the land. So there are benefits to joining the Greenway scheme, and as there are benefits with the LC WIP programme. So I think it's really important that having both these strategies that align with each other allows us to go out for the funding that we need to create this fantastic offering that we're going to have throughout North Northants. So I fully welcome this paper. It sits absolutely perfectly with the Greenway strategy, which I hope people will have a look at and see the plans that we have there, connecting over, as I say, 350 kilometres of routes. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howell. Councillor Mercer.
Thank you very much, Chair. As I went to each of the consultations and made quite a bit of input into them, and I'm really pleased to say that my comments were thoroughly taken on board. I had replies back individually as well. And one of the things that I commented on at the time was that there was a proposal for sort of an exit from the Greenway up to one of the Washbrook Road in Rushden, and that the funding was not yet available. But I'm really pleased that that funding has now been made available, and the work is actually due to start in the next week or so. So the funding for the other, you know, we can't assume we're going to get it, but if we haven't got a plan, we won't get any funding for it. So if you put all this evidence together, say that the priorities and the routes that suggested by the consultants and have been thoroughly looked into, but will be followed up individually when they actually get round to actually have any funding available, then it will really improve this area and allow people to cycle and walk more readily across the area.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Mercer. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you. It's really exciting and encouraging to see this final LC whip come forward. This is really important, obviously, for all of our residents who want to get out of their cars and get onto bikes and be able to walk safely around our area. Then many people would probably like to be able to leave their cars at home and just cycle to work, for example, but perhaps don't feel confident on our roads to do so at the moment. From an environmental point of view, this is really important if we want to see that shift. We now have all three LC whips developed, and I know they take a huge amount of work and effort. They're highly technical pieces of work, and now we have all of them in place. We're primed and ready to go for the funding to be able to put some of these in place and progressively make North Northamptonshire more and more accessible on foot and by bike. And so I absolutely welcome this, and I congratulate everyone on the huge amount of work that's gone into creating these and creating that evidence base that will enable us to draw lots more funding into North Northamptonshire and make this a reality.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Brackenbury.
Thank you, Chair. No, again, much of what I was going to say has been said, but I will just simply make the comment that, in fact, we do seem to have a joined-up plan for LC whips for the delivery of active travel, which again comes back to the 5 pillars that you were talking about in the earlier report. It's, again, really welcome to see this. And in terms of funding, of course, having schemes which are ready to go, which are deliverable and to which the evidence base is in place, really helps, because sometimes government funding streams come on at rather short notice. So it's really important, and I do commend the hard work that all the team's done. The top 15 proposed routes at Table 1 are also very illuminating, as is the funding on that table. So, congratulations to everybody who's put this welcome paper together, and good luck with all the work that's going to come to bring it to a reality.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Leader, and I too welcome this report. And I sometimes think local government is like a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? And actually, it's the pieces that bring the big picture all together. And this is the final LC whip that's coming. So we've had Kettering, Corby, and now Wellingborough and Rushden. It is a strategy across the whole of North Northants. I know Councillor Howell's worked extremely hard on the Greenways project, and this forms part of it as well, because it's about bringing it all together. We talked about earlier on with Councillor Mercer's report about health. We know that exercise, fresh air can have a positive impact on mental health. We know that we can have a positive impact on children and young people getting out there, exercising, having fresh air. We know actually this is what parents want as well as the children being out there in a safe environment, being able to get to school safely at times instead of going in the car, going on their bikes, their scooters, whatever they wish to go on. So I really welcome this report. I really welcome this piece of the jigsaw puzzle that is building the big picture for North Northants.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done, Councillor Edwards. Well said. Councillor Howells.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on the point Councillor Howell was making, because obviously it ties in really well with our rural communities. What's really good about this, not particularly about this report, but LC whips across the whole of North Northants, is that the community, there's a definite shift with town and parish councils and the community at large in terms of trying to create these areas and schemes where it's tying in with the Greenway and everything else we're doing. So it's a positive step, I think, that it's not just the local authority that's trying to sort of impose or create these ideas, but it's working with our wider community. And as I say, connecting into our local communities and villages, not just the major towns that we've got in North Northampton, is fantastic. We are connecting up some really good stuff, and they are popular. This is what people want. So, fantastic report, and it's good to see the last one in place.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. As I've often said, I live very, very close to the Greenway, and on a summer's afternoon and on a winter's afternoon, when the weather's nice, you often hear many, many families going down the Greenway, participating in activities, teenagers on bikes, kids on scooters, all getting exercise, all doing what we as a council want our youth to do, move away from sitting in front of screens, building the obesity and so on, and getting on with something active, and it's great to hear. I thoroughly enjoy to hear people enjoying themselves going down the Greenway. There's nothing like children on scooters screaming out of delight. I assume it's or adults indeed, but I haven't seen you down there, David. So, at any rate, I think on that note, I'm going to go back to Councillor Nicholl, who can just wrap up some of those comments.
Super, thank you, Chair. And I completely agree with all the comments. This is about safety, it's about providing that more accessible travel routes. Councillor Howell, this does play a huge role in bringing together our collaborative approach to those more active travel routes, and 100% agree with that. Councillor Mercer, the evidence base puts us in a really good position to access that pot of money. Like I said, none of this is guaranteed. However, we will have the framework so that when opportunities arise, we can go to central government and try and access that funding. But other than that, Chair, I'm happy to move the support, and I appreciate all the feedback.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholl. So Councillor Nicholl has moved that report. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Harrison? Thank you very much. Those recommendations are set out on page 117 of your agenda packs. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 10, Sywell Country Park Reservoir Drawdown Capacity Improvement Project. And Councillor Harrison, over to you to introduce that report.
Thank you, Chair. When I accepted this role, I never realised I was going to end up presenting to you a civil engineering project. But here we go. So the report details the improvements that need to be undertaken to ensure the water level in the reservoir at Sywell Country Park can be lowered in an emergency situation in the event that the dam was considered to be failing. The dam at Sywell Reservoir has been assessed by the Environment Agency as a flood category A, which is the highest, where a breach of the dam could endanger lives in the community. I should say very loud and very clear at this point that there is no suggestion that the dam is failing. To be compliant with the Reservoir Act 1975, we have a supervising engineer who undertakes annual inspections of the operation and maintenance of the reservoir, and then we undertake any maintenance or repairs recommended by the inspecting engineer. The 2022 inspection report identified a need to undertake a drawdown assessment of how quickly the water level in the reservoir can be lowered in emergency situations. The drawdown assessment, carried out by Stillwater Associates, identified that the capacity was approximately 30% of the calculated requirement for a flood Category A dam. In other words, we need to be able to drain water from the reservoir faster than we're currently able to do. Following an assessment of various options, the preferred solution to meet the needs of the Environment Agency was to install a new siphon to increase that drawdown capacity. And the council has agreed an action plan with the Environment Agency to carry out that work by September 2026. Failure to do so could lead to enforcement action from the Environment Agency. Stillwater Associates were commissioned to carry out an options feasibility study, and Appendix A details all the options that were considered. Most of them were discounted due to cost, technical reasons, or impact on the country park. Option 7A is considered to be the most viable option, and that's laid out in Appendix C. as it achieves the Environmental Agency drawdown requirement and has the least impact on the local environment and trees. Also, it utilises the existing circular tank, so it'll reduce construction costs. Including design, surveys, construction and contingency, the scheme is estimated to cost £1,180,000. Following completion of the designs and securing the necessary approvals, the intention is that a contractor is procured to undertake the works. So, I'd like to propose that the Executive agrees the recommendations at 3.1, which is to approve the delivery of the reservoir drawdown capital works to comply with the EA guidance, notes the request contained in the capital programme budget 25 to 29 for budget approval for the scheme, totalling £1,180,000, approves the commencement of the procurement process and delegates authority to the Assistant Director of Assets and Environment in consultation with the Executive Member for Climate and the Green Environment to take all necessary actions to deliver the project, including awarding of the contract and placing the works. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Brackenbury, you've indicated you want to talk.
Thank you, and congratulations, Councillor Harrison. I think your impression of a civil engineer was very skillful. But indeed, it's an important piece of work. We do need to ensure that if the circumstance arise, we can lower the level in the reservoir. These things don't happen immediately. There's an awful lot of water in there. It takes quite some time. So increasing this capacity of outflow is actually quite important. Especially in the context that we are having warmer, wetter winters, that rainfall seems to be increasing. Over the last 10 or 11 years, there has been considerable increases in rainfall. So making sure that our infrastructure is as competent to deal with these increases in rainfall can only be a good thing. So I absolutely endorse the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. Just looking around the table, is there no other comments to be made? Okay. So, going back to you, Councillor Harrison, just to sum up what your colleague has just said to you on the right, and then I will find you a seconder.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your support. And probably one thing I missed out earlier on is, of course, we'll be engaging with the users of Sywell Country Park and making sure that they understand why the level of the water is drained prior to the works and during the works. And we will work with the wild water swimmers who swim there and make sure they understand what's going on. But yes, thank you for your support on that. It's a really important piece of work. And if we don't carry it out, the Environment Agency will end up carrying it out for us, and then we'll have to pay whatever costs they decide to incur on our behalf. So it's very important we manage this project and deliver it on time. So, and I know that we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. I'm looking around the table for someone to second that. Councillor Brackenbury, thank you very much. The recommendations are set out on page 188 of your agenda packs. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Shall we go on to item 11, New Ambition, Northamptonshire's Economic Growth Strategy for 25 to 2030. I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to address the meeting.
New ambitions. The Big 50 has been a great having two events which clearly showed how NNC is moving forward. The town council meetings which 12 people attended, how many more could have attended? The NNC councillors have no information about this meeting, and could we have the minutes from the meetings to be accessible to all councillors? Employers' sessions. Who was the employer? And again, it would be nice for councillors to know which employers were visited and what was discussed. Lastly, The Executive Advisory Panel, who received the presentation on the 22nd of January, it would be interesting to what was discussed and how high-paid jobs are on the increase and how NNC is going to diversify and improve the economy in NNC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. I'd like to invite Mr Ashton again to address the meeting.
Good morning again. Thank you for your work you've done on this. As mentioned in the report, North Northamptonshire being within the Oxford and Cambridge corridor is important. It is important to not be left behind. Due to rail links from Corby, Kettering, Wellingborough to London, as well as close proximity to Leicester, Northampton, Milton Keynes and even Cambridge and Oxford themselves, many residents in North Northamptonshire find themselves commuting elsewhere for work. Any economic growth strategy needs to work out not only how to not only encourage workers that there are stable work opportunities here, but also pull employers here so there are more. In West Northamptonshire, thanks to Silverstone Racing Track and the Silverstone Engineering College, they have a strong pull with the engineering sector, which they've encouraged and helped to succeed in the area. My point on that is that for the local economy to grow, we'll need to find a sector, preferably not one that has been targeted in neighbouring authorities, and put together a business case on why that sector would flourish in the local area and develop a plan on how North Northants and the business can encourage education in that sector, similar to Silverstone Engineering College. Does Councillor Brackenbury intend to take a hands-on approach to pull businesses of a particular sector to North Northamptonshire, or does the council intend to cast a wide net? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Ashton. So I will now invite Councillor Brackenbury to introduce the report, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Mr Ashton and Councillor Maxwell, for your contributions. Absolutely, Mr Ashton. I do intend to keep a hands-on approach with business because, I mean, it is, as I've said before, I've remarked in public before that having a thriving business economy is the engine room of the economy. It's everything. We can't do anything without businesses because they provide jobs, they provide business rates, they provide prosperity right across North Northamptonshire. So it's absolutely essential that we work in partnership with employers and also in partnership with the education and skills sector, which is so important because, again, young people coming up have got to be adequately qualified so that they can take their part in businesses and their part in the economy as they make that all-important transition from the education world to the job place. So thank you very much for your comments. And of course, Councillor Maxwell, I mean, this has been a fairly lengthy process with considerable quantities of discussion and consultation. Again, not just with businesses, but also with the education and skills sector, which is, as I said, underpins so much of this. So to turn to the report itself, Chair, I'm pleased to bring this report. It sets out the first economic growth strategy for North Northamptonshire, and it sets out the strategic objectives and suggested priorities for our area over the next 5 years. It would be remiss to say that this strategy is not cross-cutting. It absolutely is. It affects many directorates in the council, either directly or indirectly. In fact, indirectly, it affects everything that we do as a council. And directly, of course, very much for growth and regeneration agenda that we are trying to promote as a council. It feeds into the Big 50 vision, which has already been articulated during this meeting, which is a sense of pride in place and people, where we want to be in 2050. This is not short-term thinking, and it's not just council thinking either. This is trying to have North Northamptonshire at the table. And of course, you're absolutely right about the Oxford-Cambridge arc, which sometimes is a thing and sometimes is not. Nevertheless, it is important because we are in that golden area between the two. And of course, attracting good skills and good jobs is really important. So the strategy has been prepared in the context of local government reorganisation and potential strategic partnerships which might emerge from that. So as we all know, we are in discussions with various authorities up and down the country as to working together with the drive for sort of combined authorities which is emerging from the new government. The strategic framework is set out at 5.10 and 5.11, and that sets out the three pillars the strategy rests upon, which is business, people and place as particular areas of focus. The strategy has been prepared in association with SQW, who are an industry-leading consultant, and as I've observed earlier, it has been extensively consulted upon. You will note, Chair, at 5.4 some of the timelines and discussions which have informed the development of this strategy, and I'd like to thank everyone who has contributed to those discussions and all the officers as well as the colleagues at SQW for their hard work and vision which underpins the document. And so, Chair, I commend the document at Appendix A to all members. It really is an interesting document. It's well worth taking a moment to run through it. And I'd like to emphasise that the whole strategy is a living document and that further input and commentary is extremely welcome from any member or any officer or any external body. And so with that, Chair, I move for recommendations at 3.1 for the reasons in 3.2.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brackenbury. I've had some members who have indicated they want to speak. Councillor Mercer.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I really welcome this report. I particularly like the Priority 7, Raising Aspiration. I think it's so important because in the past, a lot of our younger people have moved out of the area to get high-flying jobs, and I think it would be absolutely super if we could keep more of them in this area. And that links in with the Big 50 vision as well, of having a place with thriving businesses. I also particularly like the idea of working with universities. There's some suggestions of perhaps working with nearby universities to promote higher education and linking our jobs to get these higher end jobs. And so I really welcome this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mercer. Councillor Howell.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I also welcome the report. I think it absolutely fits so well with the ambitions that we have here at North Northampton Council to improve not only our economy, our business economy, but our tourism economy. Obviously, something that we've been working on really quite a lot since we've had the tourism strategy approved last year, and the fantastic news that we gained LVEP accreditation. That means Local Visitor Economy Partnership accreditation with Visit England, and we have a fantastic LVEP board set up now, and we have key stakeholders from the tourism sector. We have churches groups, we have North and West councils, we have some from the media, we have Silverstone Museum and the University of Northampton. And this part of the tourism strategy sits really well with this economic growth strategy as well, because we're all pulling in the same direction. Obviously, enhancing our tourism offering here and getting everybody on board will certainly support our ambitions towards making North Northamptonshire a real growth area. So I'm absolutely delighted to support this paper. So it sits so brilliantly with my portfolio as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howell. Councillor Howells.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on some comments that Councillor Maxwell made, which I think she's talking about the strategic rural forums, which I'll pick up with her offline, if I may, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howells. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair, and I too welcome this report. And what I really like about this report is it's got people all the way through it. And these are the people of North Northants. These are our residents, these are our businesses, and they are, you know, everything to this council and to North Northants. Councillor Mercer raised a point about, you know, children moving away. It's absolutely true. You know, they go away to university, out of North Northants, they go to Manchester, Birmingham, wherever they go to, and they don't return. Whereas this will allow us to be able to create these opportunities for those children to come back to the family and actually come back to the area that maybe that they were brought up in. And again, I really support those young people that find it really hard to leave education, that don't want to go to university and then want to enter the workforce. And it's creating that workforce for them and creating the advantages within that workforce. And I think it's really important that they can see a career path when they enter a workplace. They can see that actually they can move on up. And so I welcome this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. And I welcome the report myself. And I had the great honour of launching the strategy at the iconic Wickstead Park in Kettering just last week. And there was many esteemed businesses in the arena and in the hall in which we launched the strategy, and it fits in nicely, as Councillor Brackenbury said, it merges nicely in with the Big 50 vision that we have for Northamptonshire. However, Councillor Edwards, I am quite happy for my children to go to university and stay away, because that means if they come back, they're coming back home. So, but, you know, I absolutely get the fact if we can bring them back to Northamptonshire, I'm talking about the general public here, of course, that, you know, we have the opportunities for them to use the skill sets that they gain at university, and, you know, we can bring them back to Northamptonshire. That's absolutely a win-win situation. Councillor Brackenbury, the Oxcam is certainly a thing again, and that's going to be something that we will be pursuing, as you know, through the coming months and years. So I'm going to hand back to you, Councillor Brackenbury, just to sum up, and I'll find you a seconder for your report.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, members, for your welcome and supportive comments. Absolutely important that we have a thriving economy here in Northamptonshire, and that all our economic eggs, as I've often said, all our economic eggs should not be placed in one sectoral basket. It's important that we develop as high standards of employment and vision as possible. And, you know, and it's good to see that we've already had some quite serious inward investment by major companies who want to make Corby or Kettering or other parts of Northamptonshire their home. I mean, I don't have to talk about the big Nike facility which is coming here in Corby, Ball Aluminium in Kettering. All of these are high quality employers. They're not just, they are employing people on good wages, and of course the fact that they're there encourages other people to make that decision that actually Northamptonshire is a place not just to drive across, but a place where you can do business and live and work. Councillor Howell, absolutely, your tourism strategy is such an amazing document. And again, it's other economic eggs in a different part of the economy. So, you know, and you know, what, you know, Northamptonshire is again a place where we have this wonderful tourism strategy because it is a wonderful part of the world. So it's really good to see it. Thank you, Councillor Edwards. People all the way through, absolutely right. It's all about people, because without people, there's no economy, and without an economy, and you know, we're all in big trouble. So thank you for your comments, and I continue to move for recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. Councillor Howe wanted to second this, so we have a proposer and a seconder. The recommendations are on page 226, 227 of your agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 12, Northamptonshire Local Development Scheme. Councillor Buckingham, I understand you want to speak on this, so you have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. And I welcome this report, not only because or not only because I know how much work is going to be involved in putting this together, and how difficult some of those things are, especially around slippages. Please excuse me. And national planning policy framework, which changes almost on a monthly basis. So I really welcome this. I think that the biggest thing within the report, though, is the risks on the slippages. And I know, as I said, how difficult putting these documents, when it's a suite coming together with all different parts to it, how that can be. So I welcome this report. I welcome going forward, but just be aware of the risks as have been shown in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. And I would like to ask Councillor Brackenbury to introduce the report, please.
Thank you very much again, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Buckingham, for your contribution just now. And you're absolutely right. You know, there are risks about this, and they are very much taken on board. So, you know, absolutely. But there are also reasons why we are driving to meet this challenge, which I'll discuss in a moment. But I do appreciate your comments, and I also appreciate your support for the overarching strategy. So, Chair, the paper is to recommend adoption of the North Northamptonshire Local Development Scheme. And as members will be aware, the Council is required by statute to prepare and publish its local development scheme, which is a timetable for the preparation of the various documents and policies which formulate the area's development plan. The principal documents that make up the development plan are the emerging North Northamptonshire Local Plan, the Gypsy and Traveller Local Plan, and the Minerals and Waste Plan for Northamptonshire. Members will notice the current progress of each plan as set out in section 5 of the paper. Members will also recall that at a recent executive meeting, it was resolved and agreed by colleagues in West Northamptonshire that a single minerals and waste local plan be prepared for the whole of Northamptonshire. It is extremely important to point out that the North Northamptonshire local plan must be submitted to the Secretary of State no later than December 2026 to take advantage of current government policies. If the plan is submitted after that date, the plan will be examined under the new government arrangements, which have not yet been clearly articulated, but would probably give considerably less control on development to our own council. It is therefore essential, Chair, that these documents are finalised to completion, or at least to submission, should I say, by that date. Timelines for the local plan are set out at 5.19, and the combination of the Gypsy and Traveller local plan with the local plan and the rationale for doing so is set out at 5.22. And so, Chair, in conclusion, to progress these plans for submission by December 2026 is ambitious, but it is achievable. There is clear understanding with the political and corporate leadership of North Northamptonshire Council that it is essential to meet these timings and that the necessary resource will be made available. And on that basis, Chair, I move for recommendation at 3.1 for the reasons set out at 3.2.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury, for introducing that report. Just looking around the table for Councillor Howes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to just pick up on the slippage in regards to the Gypsy and Traveller element. It is unfortunate that we've had that, but we now have an update here in terms of the timeframes, which I am confident that with the plan that's behind that, we are going to be able to meet that. We're unable to remove the Gypsy and Traveller element from the submission of the local plan, which is in some ways a really good thing. So yes, sometimes certain things slip. This has slipped, unfortunately, but we're going to get it back on track and we're going to get it through. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howes. No other comments from members. I'll go back to you, Councillor Brackenbury, to wrap that up, and I'll find you a seconder.
Very kind, Chair. Thank you very much. And thank you, Councillor Howells. Absolutely right. As you know, we have to work in lockstep to get this plan over the line, because basically, if we submitted a local plan with no Gypsy and Traveller local plan, then almost certainly the planning inspectorate would rule the plan as to be unsound. So everything has to happen together. And I welcome your support and your interest and feedback in all of this, because we've had quite a number of discussions offline about the delivery of both plans, and one does not go without the other. So thanks again, and I continue to move for recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackery. As long as it happens, that's the main thing. Okay, so that has been moved. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Howells, thank you very much. On 294 of your agenda pack, you will see the recommendations. They have now been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. So we move on to item 13, national non-domestic rates and council tax write-offs. I'd like to invite Councillor Buckingham to address the meeting.
Sorry, I thought it was an exempt item. I do apologise. Yes. I'm stingier than a Scottish man living in Corby because I dislike write-offs.
Councillor Buckingham, I think only you could get away with saying that.
Shh, don't tell them.
So, Councillor Buckingham, you are right. A part of this is on red papers or whatever we want to call them these days, exempt. So you can't talk about the appendix, but you can talk about the report.
Okay. And basically I wanted clarity in whether or not we have a corporate debt policy, and if I could have links to that, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So what I will now do is ask Councillor Bunday to introduce the report and cover off some of your questions there.
Yes, we do have a corporate debt policy, and we will send you a copy. Okay. Thank you, Chair. The Council has a duty to maximise revenue collection. From time to time, however, circumstances arrive when a debt becomes uncollectible. This is where all efforts, practical or legal, have been exhausted. The accounts and audit regulations require that in such circumstances a decision to write off the debt must be taken by the 151 officer. The executive is responsible for any debt write-off over £25,000, and Appendix A details 9 such debtors amounting to just under £600,000, and these debts are now considered to be unrecoverable, and approval for write-off is sought. And with that, Chair, I move the recommendation of paragraph 3.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Members, have you got any comments in relation to this paper before you at the moment? No? Okay. So the paper has been moved. Would someone like to second that paper? Councillor Nicholl, thank you very much. Recommendations are set out on page 328 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. So I can confirm that I've received no requests for urgent business, and that concludes the business on this agenda. I'd like to thank everybody who's attended today,